Hello and welcome to the OKPreps Extra Show. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. Barry, let's start with Hoosiers. We're going to get to our own high school basketball playoffs here in a second. But Gene Hackman died recently, and so a lot of people in the sports world are talking about Hoosiers, one of his iconic performances. Barry Trammell had a nice column about that earlier in the week. Where does Hoosiers rank for you among the great sports movies?
I like Hoosiers a lot, but I'm not going to say it's in my top five, maybe my top 15. Basketball movies that I like better are, and I'm probably overlooking something, but the two that jump out to me, well, one of them was sort of like a docu movie was Hoop Dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an incredible piece of filmmaking. And the number a movie that often gets overlooked was that I really like is the movie One on One, starring Robbie Benson. Are you familiar with that movie?
Yes, but I have to say I watched it when I was a kid, but uh, I don't know if you're a fan of that, Barry? I don't know.
I am a fan because I grew up in a time where it wasn't referring to it specifically as UCLA, probably for legal reasons back then, but he was sort of like a young hoop star who attends a UCLA type program, and it came out when UCLA was everything in college basketball, and just showed some of the shady side of what some people perceived of the UCLA program at that time, or other, yeah, really the UCLA program, and really the hard business of college basketball, even then, when basically the colleges had all the power and not the players. So just it probably I don't it probably would not age well now, but when it came out in the 70s, I thought it was pretty cool and had some pretty good music with it too.
Okay, if we're going to talk about obscure 70s basketball movies, I'll throw one out at you, Barry. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
I have heard about it, but have not seen it.
I watched that as a kid. It has Dr. J in it. It has Stockard Channing in it. There's a few other people whose names you might know, but Dr. J was the star basketball player, and and Dr. J was my first basketball hero, like pre Michael Jordan, pre Larry Bird, like when I was a kid, pre 1980. Dr. J was my guy, and I loved him in that movie. There's a couple of scenes. Well, one where he does some dunking, does some moves on a black top, and it's over this really quintessential 70s type music. And as a kid, I just ate it up. Loved it. Loved the Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Well, that's now you got me wanting to watch it, and I definitely am a Dr. J fan. My first really favorite player, at least the players who were outside of the Tulsa area, because not the hometown players, was probably back then he was known as Lou Alcindor and then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And that's sort of ironic when I mentioned One on One's my favorite movie, because Kareem Lou Alcindor is from UCLA. So, and I admired the UCLA program. I guess for those who don't aren't familiar with the movie One on One, it's sort of like a movie that you're very familiar with, Patrick, and our old friend Mike Brown, North Dallas 40. It's sort of like the basketball, with North Dallas 40 is the football.
Yeah, but some of my favorite Tulsa World memories in my career is talking North Dallas 40 with Mike Brown. He loved and well, again, talking about the 70s, that movie came out in the 70s, and I watched that way when it was not age appropriate for me. But yeah, it's and Nick Nolte, and yeah, great movie. Well, okay, back to Hoosiers for a second. So in the movie, they have an overall state champion regardless of class size. It's just a true state champion. Could something like that work in Oklahoma?
Yes, absolutely. It could work, but no one wants it to work because in Oklahoma, it's all about adding more state classifications and adding more gold balls. Although in basketball, at least it's somewhat reasonable right now. You've got only seven classifications, seven gold balls for 500 schools. and as opposed to football, which is a bit out of control with 12 state championships. Um, so yeah, it could work in Oklahoma, and I think it would be very fascinating. The tournament champions
Hmm.
shows how that concept at least could work, and that it is possible from some small teams to compete in basketball against the larger schools, which have to say that's really not realistic in football. You couldn't have a Class A school going up against a 6A1 school in football. So I think it could work if everyone wanted to do it, and it would be fascinating, but don't see it happening.
Barry, what are some of the more memorable small schools that you recall covering in your time?
Probably we're in the midst of one of those great small school eras right now with Dale. Dale is certainly a team, as it showed when it won the Tournament of Champions a couple of years ago, that in this era they can compete with just about anyone. And they're looking as we speak for a to make it four consecutive state championships. They've just been so dominant with the Forsyth brothers, and they are. I mean, it's quite a dynasty that they've had the last few years, and they showed they can play with anybody.
Yep.
So that would they come to mind. In Oklahoma Christian School back in like the first decade of this century, they won five state titles in a 6 year span from 2002 to '07. And of course, they were known for the Griffins, Blake and Taylor Griffin. And of course, their dad, Tommy, was the head coach. They had enough talent. They could play with anybody. Absolutely. And other than that, again, speaking of a team that Mike Brown loved, 1985 Smithville, which came into the Tournament of Champions and knocked off a Booker T. Washington dynasty team uh, in the opening round back in that year. So that was quite a memorable moment. Smithville was just sort of like a 1 year deal, but they certainly made their mark in Oklahoma basketball history that season en route to the state championship.
Was Richard Dumas on that Booker T team? Was that his era?
He would have been a soft. He would have been a sophomore on that team.
Okay. Wayman was long gone, right?
Wayman was gone. Melvin Gillum was
Hmm.
been on that team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So talking about the playoffs this week, Barry, obviously playoffs continue. What kind of games are you looking at this week as the playoffs keep rolling along?
In the area tournament, it's in the 6A area tournament. It's going to be fast. I think the Owasso Sand Springs matchup is going to be fascinating because I think most people think it's going to be Owasso and Broken Arrow 1 and 2 in the state championship game. And they've been the two best teams all throughout the season, but they have not played each other in the regular season. They traditionally, in the last few years, have played some really knockdown, drag out games. So, um, a preview, but since we have those teams have not played, you've got Sand Springs playing Owasso, and Sand Springs is the one team that Broken Arrow's played this year in state that has matched up really well with Broken Arrow. So that fascinates me, and this would be a real Sand Springs and Owasso. This is really strange because they're longtime Frontier Valley rivals. They haven't played in over 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they get together. Sand Springs has been way under the radar. I think they're sneaky good. We'll see how good when they play Owasso.
That's a good way to describe them. I was gonna ask you like they're legit, right? And you just said sneaky good is a good way to describe them.
They've got a great player, Deke Thompson,
Yep.
who averages over 20 points a game. They've got just a lot of 6 or 7 really good players, especially since everyone's healthy now. They've finally got everyone healthy, and they are 20-4. From what we can gather, this may be their first 21 season ever. Eric Savage, of course, Eric Savage from his days from Memorial. It's hard to believe he's been at Sand Springs. I think this is his 12th season. Time flies.
That is hard to believe.
But of course, everyone knows how great a coach he is. And I think he's just done a super job with that program. Think it'll be really interesting to see in the Owasso Sand Springs game. We'll see how far the Sand Springs program has come. They're 20-4. Everything is rolling really well for them. Of course, I think Owasso, if they're all clicking, I think Owasso's got the potential to be a super team. So obviously a national top 25 team. However, it's all about matchups, and Broken Arrow traditionally has been a team that's matched up really well against them, and maybe Sand Springs will be that type of team too.
Your thoughts on David Alexander joining Bishop Kelley?
Speaking of Broken Arrow, the former Broken Arrow coach who led Broken Arrow to its only state football title back in 2018 with a perfect 13-0 record. Yes, it was announced yesterday that he's going to Bishop Kelley after 3 years of being offensive coordinator at Sapulpa. Those have been 3 good years at Sapulpa, but he's ready for a new challenge, and he's going to Bishop Kelley where he'll be on the coach the offensive line. Uh, what I found interesting when I talked to him yesterday was how much he really wants to become a head coach again, get another head coaching opportunity. He enjoys coaching, just focusing on a position. He enjoys that a lot because you get to know players better. You don't get to know as many players as you do when you're head coach, but you really get to form strong relationships with the players when you're a position coach. It's sort of different than being a head coach. But he's also looking forward to it. He really wants to be a head coach again someday, and so he can pour into a whole team, as he said. And I hope he gets that opportunity.
Does
I
it?
would be
Yeah,
I would be
does.
interested to see what he could do with another team. All throughout his career, he's been associated with winners. Every
Right.
team he's been with, going back to when he's at the University of Tulsa, he's had that program 5 seasons. They had 5 winning seasons there. Then to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then as a coach at Jenks as an assistant, head coach at Broken Arrow, assistant at Sapulpa, Tulsa Talons.
Hmm.
That's for you, Mike Brown, if you're watching. He's just won everywhere he's gone. So I'd love to see him get another head coaching opportunity.
Does it surprise you that he hasn't?
Yeah, a little bit. Again,
It does me.
I, yeah, I thought he probably would have by now. Again, he doesn't really want to move away from the Tulsa area. So it would have to be the right fit. As he says, he's getting to the grandparent phase of his life, so he's not planning on moving very far. He doesn't want to really move, so it'd have to be something in this area. But yeah, I guess it does surprise me a little bit um, that he hasn't received a head coaching opportunity. Although it'd just be really interesting what program would be a good fit for him
Yeah.
or for anyone who has coached at a 6A1 power as he has.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else is on your mind, Barry? Shall we leave it there, or you want to talk about something else?
Just what a great week of state tournament wrestling it was last week. And
Yes.
so congratulations to all the state champions and the 4 Peters, individual champions. Just great accomplishment, in the Tulsa metro area. Jaden Roller, Bixby, second girls 4 Peter state champion. So I guess now there have been a little more than 50 4 Pete state champions in state history. And so congratulations to everyone there. Stillwater wins another 6A title. So some great wrestling that we saw last week. And now we're hitting in the stretch run of state basketball tournament, the 2A and B state tournaments this week, and the rest next week at the Big House in Oklahoma City. It's going to be a state tournament like no other because it's going to start Monday and it's going to run through Saturday, and they're going all day, 6 days in a row. And all the games are played there except on Friday when the large schools are going to Yukon. And so it'll be really interesting.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for this week. Barry and I will be back next week. We'll talk more basketball. Appreciate you joining us.